views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Everyone, of the Dr. Bob Lee, and you're watching Open BXRX, another fantastic show in store for you. Kick off your shoes and relax your feet if you want to, but you don't have to. Whatever you want, we're open. Coming up on today's show, we'll hear from the executive director of an organization that is aspiring to reinvent education in New York City and beyond. After that, we'll highlight a report that shows financial support may be on the way for some college students. Then we'll sit down with a former second grade teacher and now small business owner to learn about how she is continuing to empower the next generation. Then Bobby C has the latest in the world of sports. Then finally, we'll speak to a state elected official who will share her thoughts on the rise in violence throughout our city. And now she intends to spread radical love. All of this and more is headed your way. We are wide open. Here we go. Hey everyone, I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You are watching BronxNet's Open. We've got a whole lot in store for you. It's that live interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set so you can stay connected to us through social media at BronxNet TV. Now, leading things off, well, we're joined by the Senior Advisor and Executive Director of the YV Foundation. Now, he is also the author of today's Inspired Leader, Volume 3. Stories of impact, community, and legacy. He's here with us today to speak about how his foundation is looking to reinvent education in the United States and to also highlight his latest book. We'll have all of that and more because he's here. So please welcome to the show, John Moreno-Escobar. John, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. It's a pleasure to be here. And I graduated from CUNY many years ago, so I'm really happy to be on BronxNet. You guys did an interview of my non-for-profit at that time, and really a lot of great memories about that.
John, tell us, you're from Colombia, right? And you were on the show before. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Bob. Yes, I was here before. We talked about a non-for-profit that I funded in 2017, and it was great to explain the work that we were doing, helping immigrant youth in New York City to understand the process of post-secondary education. And why I started that is because, as you mentioned, I came from Colombia in South America when I was 18, and I had the opportunity to, one, learn the language through different programs in Queens, New York. And then after that, I went to LaGuardia Community College, and then I went to Baruch College where I got my bachelor's and my master's degree. And, I knew how hard it was to understand and apply and prepare to go into college in the United States. And we decided to start that project. And then 6 years ago, I decided to move to South Florida. So now I live in the Southeast, miss lots of things from the Northeast and especially New York City, but now here with a new foundation, creating a lot of impact and trying to transform and reinvent education in the United States.
Yeah, and the foundation is the YV Foundation.
That's
Tell
correct.
us about its mission and its connection to New York City and Florida.
Sure. So the YV Foundation was funded 5 years ago now. In New York City. That's where we started our programming, and mainly was looking into how we could reinvent the way that our kids get educated. Many of our kids don't get educated about building wealth, understanding the government structures, understanding how they could become the best version of themselves through mindfulness, understanding technology, basic technology things that are now part of careers and jobs. And so we decided to bring those workshops into the different high schools and middle schools in New York City We had partnerships with 65 different schools until, COVID came and we had to close many of our programs in New York City. We decided to focus our attention in South Florida. And now we have a fellowship, which has been a tremendous success here in South Florida, and trying to bring it back or bring it to New York City. But mainly what we do, it's a youth fellowship for high school students. They see us twice a month for the entire time in their school year, and they learn about different soft skills, hard skills. They get exposed to different speakers, post-secondary education information, not just about 2-year and 4-year colleges, but also about boot camps and technical colleges and certifications. And the idea here is to bring different topics and different speakers that usually regular public schools are not able to bring into their campus. So we do it through our fellowship. And right now we are planning our 2nd year of the fellowship here in South Florida, again, going through open a fellowship in Chicago and New York City next year in 2024.
Great. And also, you're an author of not 1, not 2, but 3 books.
It's only 1 book. Is the 3rd volume.
Got it.
Is the 3rd volume of that inspiring leaders. It's a compilation of different authors where we share our experiences around leadership. In my case, was leadership and mentoring. I do believe that mentoring is a critical thing for our youth and for the entry level executives, especially of color, Black and Latino.
Yes, absolutely.
So through the book, we are trying to inspire others to take some of our stories and look at themselves and see how our stories will inspire them to become better individuals in their workspace, but also better leaders. We need definitely more leaders of color. For my case, Latino and Hispanics, Latinx and Hispanics, they are able to be on the boardrooms and having a seat at the table to make decisions that will impact our communities for sure.
So to learn more about what this is all about, they can get the book where? Is it on Amazon?
They can find the book on Amazon. We are doing a couple of launches. One is going to be here in South Florida. I am planning to do another one in New York City soon, but the authors are all over the country. I am based in South Florida, but spent 14 years of my life in New York City, so definitely doing something up there. But everyone could find the book on Amazon for sure.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with going back and forth. 16 degrees in New York City and Palmer in Florida.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, John, do you have a website we can go to find out a whole lot more?
Sure, you guys could visit for our foundation, www.yv, V as in Victor, foundation.com. You could visit us there. You could find the information about our programs. And if you want to contact me directly, you could go to john@yvfoundation.com. That's JOHN @YV, as in Victor, foundation.com.
All right, there you go. John Moreno-Escobar, Executive Director of YV Foundation, author of Today's Inspired Leader, Volume 3. Yeah, Stories of Impact, Community, and Legacy. I like it. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Appreciate the opportunity.
And you're always welcome to come back. We'll take a break. More Open on the way next. Welcome back. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee for 107.5 WPLS. You are watching BronxNet's Open, and we've got you covered like a blanket. We say that because we go around giving out blankets to people in need in our community. Our next guest is the Executive Director of Center for an Urban Future. He's here today to share some promising information that may impact the enrollment status for part-time CUNY college students. So please welcome to the show, Jonathan Bowles. Jonathan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Jonathan, tell us, growing up in New York City's economy and boosting the number of middle-income jobs is one of the things that you're doing with your organization?
Absolutely. We focus on how do we build a more equitable economy in New York. We know that the city has had a lot of jobs created in recent years, but the prosperity has not spread equally across the city. And so we've been really looking at what are specific things that folks in city and state government can do to increase economic opportunity, to help more people get on the path to the middle class. And just this week, we did a study focusing on a really great opportunity for New York, and that is to extend the state's tuition assistance program for part-time CUNY students. We know how important CUNY is for economic mobility in New York, and the problem is that a lot of New Yorkers can't set aside work or family responsibilities to go full-time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too darn difficult for them to do so. But for a long time, the state has penalized those students and not made them eligible for the state's otherwise very generous tuition assistance program. And our report is really kind of highlighting why that needs to change. We found that there are 79,000 CUNY students across the 5 boroughs that are going on a part-time basis. That's a lot of students. In the Bronx, it's 12,000 students just in this borough. If we can extend the tuition assistance program to these part-time students, we're going to greatly increase their chances of actually making it to graduation and earning a credential.
So you only get the TAP if you're fully matriculated, but if you're part-time, it's not extended. How do we make that happen? What can we do?
Yeah, well, there's a great opportunity this year. And the reason we did this report is that in January, Governor Hochul made a big proposal to extend the tuition assistance program to part-time students. It used to be, it is still the case that you don't qualify if you haven't taken 24 credits in the last year. And that rate basically is a full-time load of courses. Basically, it means like 12 courses in each of the 2 last semesters. And she's proposed changing that and making it so that as long as you have 6 credits in the current semester, you can qualify for this generous tuition assistance that the state has. That means most part-time students will be able to take part in this. And that's going to help them stay in school, because tuition assistance, we know how expensive it is, not just with the tuition, with all sorts of other costs. Getting this help will help them stay in school and help them to kind of stay along the path to get that credential.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us used it in the past. I mean, when I attended the New York Institute of Technology, I used it back then. And yeah, it's very much needed for sure.
And I can't just say enough, this is about CUNY, it's about helping students, but look, the bigger picture here is that we need to build a more equitable economy. There are things that we can do on the short term, and there are longer term investments we ought to make. And one is we need to improve the number or expand the number of New Yorkers that earn a college credential, because in today's economy, so many of the good paying jobs require some kind of a credential, maybe not all a bachelor's degree, but at least an associate's degree, or in some cases, a lot more than that. And we're not there yet. Citywide, just 41% of New York City residents of adults have a bachelor's degree. And in the Bronx, it's only 21%. We need to move the needle on those. And there's a lot of students that recognize how important that degree is. They are enrolling in CUNY, but many can't afford to do so on a full-time basis, and we should not penalize those students.
Yeah. How might this impact enrollment rates and graduation rates, even during the pandemic? Has touched it, or did it help it or hurt it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question because like, it's not just about getting folks to enroll in CUNY. I think the challenge has been that too few of the students who do enroll actually make it all the way to the finish line and earn a credential, especially for the community colleges in the city. For community colleges, the graduation rate is around 30%. And so that means that the vast majority of people who are enrolling in community colleges don't actually get that piece of paper that helps so much with getting a good job. And so, you know, in the pandemic, you're right to ask, enrollment trends have gone down, and, you know, it's been that much harder. You know, people need to make some money. People have lost their jobs, and people have often said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice my college right now because I just got to get a job and make some money right now to support my family. But this kind of a proposal that we're making, that the governor has made, I think will help more people actually go back to CUNY, because like, it's basically making it easy to do so on a part-time basis. You don't have to go full-time. You don't have to necessarily give up all of your job or other things that you're doing. And it makes it as easy as possible to go on a part-time basis and actually get some help in doing so.
What would you tell students looking to get from point A to point B? They want to go to school. They need the tap. They need the assistance. What would you tell them? What can they learn from what you're about ready to tell them right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I would tell them that, look, the first thing is there are a lot of good programs that help students stay in school and kind of make it all the way to that credential, because it's not enough just to enroll. You know, if you don't get that piece of paper at the end, your chances of getting a good job aren't going to be as good. And so not just with these state programs like tuition assistance, there's some fantastic community-based organizations all over the city, definitely in the Bronx, that are helping these students kind of with college persistence. So get a load on which organizations are there. Get all the help you can get, because we know how hard it is to stay in school. There's just a lot of things that get in the way. Life gets in the way, the pandemic, work, you know, expenses. But I think that, you know, we also would urge them to call their legislator, and ask them to support this proposal by the governor to make part-time students eligible.
Yeah, and Jonathan, you know, a lot of people had to maybe leave school or hold off going to school because they needed to get into the workforce. Check with your job. You may have a tuition refund program as a part of your benefit at the job that may be able to assist you with going back to school and getting a good education.
Great idea. And more companies are starting to do that. So absolutely. Yeah.
Jonathan, where can we go for more information?
Check out our report at nycfuture.org.
nycfuture.org. What is in that report?
What's that?
What is in that report?
We have all sorts of good data on the number of part-time students at every CUNY school in New York City. So it shows, for instance, how many are enrolled at Ostos Community College on a part-time basis. Actually, 47% of all Ostos students are part-time. But also it goes through all the other CUNY schools across the 5 boroughs. And it really kind of provides a little bit more of a push for legislators to do this, and really shows just why and how important this is.
Website again is?
nycfuture.org.
Jonathan Bowles, Executive Director for Center for an Urban Future. Jonathan, thank you so much. Great information.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Come back again, share more. We love it.
All right.
All right. We'll take a break. I've got a whole lot more coming up next right here on Open. Welcome back, everybody. I'm the Doc Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. We've got it going on for you. Hope you are enjoying yourself. I have a guest here. She's a community legend in Harlem, Uptown, and she has 30 years of teaching experience. And now she has a children's bookstore and a toy store. And she joins us today to speak about her store, Grandma's Place in Harlem. That's what it's called. And to reflect on how she's empowered our youth. And that's so, so very, very important. So we welcome to the show, Dawn Harris Martin. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. Welcome to Grandma's Place.
We love your store. We love all that you have to offer our youth also. But you were always wrapped up in books. Your older sister used to babysit. She used to drop you off at the library. Tell us about that story.
Okay, well, my mom had 3 jobs, 2 full-time jobs and a Saturday job. So my sister's responsibility after school was to take care of me. And so her idea of taking care of me was dropping me off at the library that they now call the Harry Belafonte Library.
Yeah.
And she would pick me up right before my mother came home from work to fix food to go to her second job. So I stayed in the library and read all the books, and the librarians allowed me in the adult section, and I was like a fixture in the library, and I loved books.
So you went through the whole section.
The whole children's library, yes. And so they allowed me to go into the adult books, and then I started reading the magazines and other stuff in the adult library.
What did the librarian think? Well, she's read all about
They loved me. They loved me. We had the best conversations. I was looking for adult conversation because I was a precocious child. So I would engage them in conversations about the things that I'd read, and they were just amazed by that. You know?
Yeah, wow. And so here we are now. Look, you were a school teacher. So from then to now, tell us about it.
Well, I didn't become a school teacher until later on in the game. I was a architectural draftswoman. My mom, I was an artist, and I wanted to be an artist. My mom said, Black folks don't make no money painting, so you got to do something else. So I decided, she decided that I was going to take up drafting. So architectural drafting, which was what I did. So after that, I started working in the municipal building as a plan examiner, a gopher, filing plans in the building department.
Yeah.
And I was on August 28th, 1963, the municipal workers, I got on their bus and went to Washington for the march for Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And mother asked me on that day, why are you going? I said, because when I have children and people ask me where I was on August 28th, I want to be sure that I will say to them, I was there. And that's where I was, at the March on Washington, August 28th. And that was my sister's birthday.
Wow. Yeah. So we hear all the business that's going on in the background. We hear the phone ringing. We hear the cash register and all that. You're doing business at a place called Grandma's Place.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Sorry about that.
No, it's all a part of business, and it's what we're doing right about now.
Yes.
So what inspired you to open up Grandma's Place?
Well, the building next to where I live, I have a brownstone right next to this place, and it was vacant for about 20 years. And all of a sudden it started being renovated. And I had the option of having a fast food joint or a barbershop or a laundromat next to me. And I said, wait a minute, I think I want something like a literacy center, because by that time I was a New York City school teacher. And what I noticed was that the parents who were educated, who interacted with the children appeared brighter. In actuality, they weren't. They were just more exposed. So I decided that I was going to help the parents that did not read well and to work with their children. So I opened a literacy center, and a intergenerational literacy center. So I had 67-year-olds learning how to read the Bible, men and women.
Yeah.
And I had parents learning to read so that they could read and work with their children. And then I had kids coming there that were being homeschooled. So it was quite an interesting mix of people there in the store.
Beautiful. And
they went up on the rent Then they went up on the rent, and I decided that I had to start selling some of the books that I had in the store.
Yeah.
And books didn't sell. And then I introduced educational games, and that took off. So the balance of the educational games and the toys kept the bookstore solving
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Yeah. And everything else around you is collapsing, like a lot of the other bookstores in the area. They're no
Yes.
longer record stores, bookstores, all went down, but just still here.
Yep, Human Bookstore on 125th Street that became an online bookstore. But I listen, my mom told me if you start something, you finish it.
Describe the connection and the love between your store and you in the Harlem community.
Well, I got the name in Harlem. I am Grandma Dawn to the Harlem community because my granddaughter was 7 years old when I opened this store, and she worked in the store with me, and she called me Grandma. So when the kids came in, they thought I was Grandma. So everybody calls me Grandma Dawn. And I feel connected to all of these children because they bring me their report cards. They come and celebrate their birthdays with me, and they share their joys and their sorrows with me. So, and the parents come in when they're having a problem with the kid, they come in and they talk to me about it, and we decide how best we can attack the problem. And I use my experiences raising 7. I didn't have 7 children, but I had 2 stepbrothers and a sister, and I raised a child that nobody wanted. So I've raised children, and they've been so successful. I mean, and the success is not in terms of money, but they're their own people. They do their own things. They celebrate themselves, and that's all I want these kids in Harlem to do: to see themselves in the books, in the positive books, and in the toys, and to know that they're worth something, and that each and every one of them has a gift. That's the important thing, and it's our job to find out what that gift is and to nurture it.
Thank you so much, Dawn. We love you. People come to you for advice. They know where to come. They know who you are. They know that love, that connection between you and the Harlem community. And I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that I want to carry, I believe in financial literacy. And there's a very important book that by Ty Allen Jackson, that if I had this book when I was a kid, I would be a multimillionaire now, because I've been an entrepreneur since I was 6. But if I had this book, I would have been much better off.
What did it say? What did it say? More money, more problems?
It says make your own money, how kids can earn it, save it, spend it, and donate it.
There you go. Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you. Dawn Harris Martin, owner, Grandma's Place in Harlem.
Thank you.
We love you.
Thank you so much. And I really want to have more conversations with you, Bob, because you are so many things to so many people. And there's a bunch of things that I want to talk to you about.
You got it. And we'll do it. We'll make that appointment. We'll make it happen.
All right, honey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a break. Bobby C. He's up next with the latest in the world of sports. It's big.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Last time on the show, we got a chance to talk about the NBA's 75th anniversary with statistical pioneer Dave Herron. Here's part 2 of that interview.
I would say, the gold standard for ranking players and projecting drafts and, really for rating the best players both in college and in the NBA,
Yes.
which is something that you've got to be very proud of. As someone that also grew up a Knicks fan, are you excited about basically the resurgence that you might be seeing? Because this is probably the best we've seen the Knicks in some time.
I am to the point now where I don't follow the NBA as close as I did. I have a second profession now, and that's taking up most of my time. So what I do now is I wait until the end of the season, and then I do my ratings. I don't follow it game by game. I don't have time to follow it game by game. I really do have a second profession. And so I can't really tell you. All I can say is I'm real happy. I'm real happy. They did have 2 titles. But the disappointing thing about that was that a friend of mine, Rick Barry, who grew up in the New York area and wanted to play for the Knicks, was overlooked in the draft when they had a chance to draft him. Instead, they took Bill Bradley. And the first time Barry played against Bradley in NBA, he scored 50-some points, 15 rebounds. He was just so much better player that I to this day, I feel that if the Knicks had drafted Barry instead of Bradley, they would have gone on a run like the Bulls did in the 90s, because they would have been just that much better. They just had that one weak position, small forward. And Barry was great. He once got 38 points in an All-Star game, and that was the only All-Star game Robertson ever lost. Barry was a great player, and I still communicate with him because he was in Miami for a while I was there.
Well, I mean, it's the same deal more recently with the Knicks, missing out, I should say passing, but missing out on Steph Curry, who is arguably the greatest shooter of all time.
Definitely. Well, I say he definitely is the greatest shooter of all time. You run the numbers. And the best way to do it is a simple way: points per shots. And he is the only player in history that averaged better than 1.1 point per shot. And he's way ahead of the number 2 guy. I mean, how can you can't argue with that. He is the greatest shooter of all time. Now, he's got some parts of his game that aren't quite that great, but the greatest shooter of all time.
Dave is someone that obviously believes in stats, has worked in stats. When someone comes back at you in the sports argument and kind of denounces statistics, what is your response? Because I know some people might advocate for the eye test, or they might say to someone, "Oh, you didn't see that person play, but I've seen that person play." Is stats the way that we really can truly determine how great a player is, whether it's in basketball or even any sport?
Well, I think yes, to a certain extent it is, except for the things that are not identifiable by statistics. For instance, man defense in the NBA. The great man defenders, they just shut their opponents down. Now, if you see an all-star game and you see so-and-so against so-and-so, and one guy shutting the other guy down, like Robertson always shut down his opponent, then you say, whoa. But how do you rate man defense unless you get play by play and you see, well, he did this and he did that, he held him to this, and he wasn't playing at the same time that. It's hard to do that with man. And that is a great factor. And I want to say this, and I don't think it's coincidental, because the great athletes, James and Jordan and Robertson and Chamberlain, all were excellent man defenders. Robertson was the best of the 4, but Chamberlain could get up and block shots. They could do things, those 4 guys, and by the way, all 4 of them could jump to the moon. I mean, Robertson had vertical at least as good as Jordan when he was young. James has that great vertical. I remember Miami putting him up to try to block a shot against a guy who was not normally his man, because they knew that James could get up there. And Chamberlain once made a free throw by launching himself behind the free throw line and jamming the ball in. And the NBA panicked. Oh, we can't allow that. Well, today, people would love it. But in those days, we can't allow that. So they made a rule that Chamberlain couldn't dunk free throws. The league has changed, okay? It's I think in some ways, it's better because it's more of a show. But sometimes the show, sometimes the players get lazy and the show becomes the thing when they really should be playing solid defense.
100%. And some stuff, as you mentioned, is just not quite reliable, but it is true that you could probably put, figures on just about anything. And when you look at the real in-depth analysis, it does provide better context about which players, might be trending in one direction or the other. But what, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the book specifically, because I think the book does a blend of both things. It obviously gets very heavy into the numbers, but there's tons of stories and anecdotes and things that players and fans alike would definitely, want to hear those stories, things that are relatable. Tell us a little bit more about the process, because you've co-authored 15 plus books, right? And at the same time, I guess about 8 of them have been statistical based.
Yeah, it's 9 and 9 now, so it's 18.
Okay.
But yeah, and this, I'm always in the right place at the right time. My first job, the first early in the season, Philadelphia Warriors coming to play the Knicks. And I'm doing the stats, the 10-day ratings, updating them. And I get this finger coming around me, and it's huge. And then pretty soon I hear this voice saying, well, what's my rating? And I turn around and it's Wilt Chamberlain. And we had this great conversation. And years later, I met Wilt again in Boca Raton when he was sponsoring an event for handicapped boys. And we had another big conversation. And he told me at that time that when he was chosen MVP of the championship series, I think it was 72, it was around then, that he had 2 broken hands. Well, I knew he had 1, but 2, how do you play with 2 broken hands? But the man, he was great. And he was a great conversationalist. He was a great man. At the end of this was a year before Will died. At the end of our conversation, he said to me, well, why don't you write a story about those kids? And he was a good man. And Robertson was a good man. He donated a kidney to his sick daughter, probably saved her life. And they asked him about it. Well, you're a big hero. I said, well, who wouldn't? He said, well, who wouldn't do that for his daughter? And there are good stories also about James and Jordan. One that I like about James is how he chose his teammates after Cleveland. And that was really in the Olympic Games in 2008. My timing is not great now, but it was something like that. And that was when he befriended Dwayne Wade, who happened to be having the hot hand during that ticket. So they wound up being teammates for 4 years. And in those 4 years, they were in the championship series all 4 times and won 2 titles. I mean, that's pretty good. But James, he was like Robertson in the beginning. He had no teammates, so how could he win? The best he could do would be pull his team up to 500 because he was good. But I think guys like that, Jordan too. Jordan had a lot of character. A lot of people thought, well, he retired. Well, what he was doing was he was restoring his leg strength. And he did, and he came back and was great again. But the man wanted to win, and he had a lot of character.
Well, Dave, I would say the book definitely has it all, and it's just in time for the 75th anniversary. Greatest NBA teams, greatest players. It's insightful. It's comprehensive. And for the fans at home, it is available at all major retailers, including online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Dave, thank you so much for taking some time. It's always great to talk basketball. I hope you're enjoying that sunshine in Florida because it's pretty cold here in New York City.
Pretty cold here, too. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time. Best of luck with the book.
welcome back. Our next guest is a third-generation Harlemite, a book printing poet, teaching artist, and activist in the Harlem community and self-published author, and the city councilwoman for the city's 9th Council District. And she joins us today to speak about recent acts of violence in our city and how we can begin the process of healing for communities and families impacted and achieve radical love. So please welcome to the show, Councilwoman Kristin Richardson Jordan. Welcome, Councilwoman.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So yeah, I know there's a lot of talk in our community about a lot of things that are going on, and hopefully we can find a way to bump it down. What are your ideas on how to bump all of this violence down in our community?
So one of the things that I and my team are working on, and I know it sounds small, but it is a step, is just the healing circles. We are doing a healing vigil, and we're planning to do multiple throughout the district. And it's basically a non-political space where we're just going to hold space for mourning those lives that we have lost due to gun violence, due to violence in our community. And at the same time, we're honoring human life. We're honoring the space and the village of Harlem, which is our District 9 City Council district, and honoring that heritage and legacy, and just being a people and just connecting as people. So that's one thing that we're doing, is just a small step to try to de-escalate some of this highly charged climate that we're in, and get the center and see each other as human. So
and that small step may be bigger than we think. You know, I think you're onto something there, and little steps will move toward the goal that we need to try to get to. Now, we want to achieve radical love, you know, quote unquote, from you. How do we achieve that radical love?
So with that, I think we take the small steps, but we also need some bigger steps. I ran on a campaign to disrupt the district with radical love, and it was a really historic win. And I'm very grateful and excited to be here. I am the youngest ever in the history of the seat at 35 years old, and and I think that my youth and energy and my creativity brings something new. So what I'm saying about radical love is us having a deep, profound love for humanity, enough to take care of one another. And here's where it does get political. It means taking some big steps in terms of understanding that everyone is deserving of a home. I'm fighting for a homes guarantee in the city of New York, where we address those who are houseless and homeless. Understanding that everyone is deserving of a job, looking at jobs guarantee, looking at possibly basic income, trying to figure out how we're going to actually serve our community. Because there is there's a real hurting, and there's a real sense of lack, and there's poverty. And that's one of the things we have to talk about if we're talking about gun violence. The link between gun violence and crime in communities and poverty is well documented, well established. So one of the things we have going on in my council office right now is a jobs program where we're helping people who are looking for work, helping them with their resumes and helping them to be able to apply for jobs. Now that may not seem linked to crime, but it is. Studies have shown us it. And the other thing I think we need to do is invest in mental health. This is something I have big questions about, especially in our city where we previously had Thrive, and there was a lot of money in New York City that went into the Thrive program. I would like to see where that is now. Where is that funding now? What is going on in this space and place of mental health and wellness? We had a officer involved shooting literally on the same block that my office is on, 135th Street. And we lost those lives, those young lives. I mean, one officer, Jason Rivera, was 22 years old. I mean, it's really horrific. And at the same time that we mourn that loss of life, for those officers. I also mourn and extend my condolences and mourn the loss of life that's going on for the family of the assailant as well, because there are 3 mothers without a son. There are 3 families in mourning. And at the end of the day is a lack of mental and emotional health services and a lack of support that led to that violence. So we have to start addressing the seed of violence, and we have to start addressing poverty and mental health in our communities.
Yeah, we have to do more.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of the people, they had institutions before for people who are a little unstable, but now they go right to Rikers Island, right?
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, we have to address that, because the institutions were shut down for a reason. There were tremendous human rights abuses, and there was tremendous issues in terms of how people were getting cared for or not getting cared for when they were in those institutions. And that absolutely has to be addressed. I am in no way saying go back to that state, but we do need something. We need something other than a state of homelessness or worse, the incarceration of those who are mentally ill or those who are mentally and emotionally struggling. I think what we should be looking at is small care centers, small supportive housing units, looking at models that are decarceral, that are really humane and human-centered, but that are providing a service for those in need.
Yeah. You know, I know there's a lot of things that you want to address. When you're in a position like yours, you need a whole team of people moving together in the same direction for a common cause. And sometimes we have to make little political moves to try to accomplish some of the things that we need to accomplish. What are some of the most important changes you're looking to do to impact people in our community, in our city?
So there's a few key things. One of the things we've already started is the jobs program and the vigil. So just making sure we have spaces that we are holding for like mental and emotional healing and for bringing together the community. I also think that service is very key. In my office, we're doing a monthly mutual aid. This past month, we went to a women and children's shelter and just gave out care packs. And again, this stuff seems small, and we are a local office. You know, it's District 9. There's a limit to the power of this seat, right? But there is such power in coming together as a community. So that's what I'm really looking at. With my discretionary funds, I'm interested in supporting mental and emotional health in our community. And I'm also looking at support for care teams that can go and address those who are out on the streets, who are struggling with addiction, who are struggling with mental health, and get them to points of care and service. So that's something that I feel like I can do from my position. I will also fight for a city budget that really puts the money into preventative services. That is something that we are in a conversation right now as a city about, especially in the wake of the recent officer-involved shootings, is that for some people, that is a call to law and order. It's a call to crack down on crime. I am really emphasizing the opposite, that we need to look at preventing the violence before it happens, as opposed to even more resources into a really highly financed NYPD.
What can the community do to get behind you and help you to accomplish some of the things that you need to accomplish?
So there's lots of ways to get involved. We are organizers. My background is actually in organizing. So there's volunteer meetings. We're doing different task forces to address different issues. We have a mutual aid task force that is starting up to help with the outreach that I just spoke about. We also have a housing task force where we're looking at addressing gentrification, a huge issue in Harlem, and how we get more affordable housing to our district. And all of this you can sign up for and join at kristinforharlem.com. That's KRISTIN, 2 I's, because my eyes are wide open, kristinforharlem.com. And yeah, just sign up and get involved. It's a lot of ways to just help out.
Councilwoman Kristin Richardson Jordan, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Always remember this: what you are is God's gift to you, and what you make of yourself is your gift to God. So choose your choice and let your choice control the chooser. And remember, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'll catch you another day, another way. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee, and I'll see you over 107.5 WBLS. Love you all. Peace.